As Delhi has witnessed one of its worst cases of urban flooding in a week between July 10th to 17th, there have been reports and there have been uh, discussions on the need to revamp the drainage system. So, as there are discussions over this revamp, we are currently joined by Professor A.K. Gosain. He has led a team of experts in 2012 to study the new master plan, and they have given some elaborate suggestions to the government. But unfortunately, their report was shelved by the current dispensation. So to discuss this and a lot more, we have Professor A.K. Gosai. Welcome to the show, sir. To begin with, sir, let me just try to understand the case of annual flooding in Delhi, that results in waterlogging. And majorly it is attributed to, the poor condition of the stormwater drains and the condition of the drainage system, which is as old as 1976. So can you throw some light on it, sir?
Yes, I think I'd like to clarify here that Delhi flooding, the present one, is on account of the flooding of Yamuna, whereas the usual flooding of Delhi, for which the existing drainage system is very important. So let me just explain that Delhi can be flooded on two accounts. One is the local rainfall falling over the landmass of Delhi, which means that if there is a lot of rain falling, which has to be evacuated from the areas which get the inundated water through the storm drains, which finally fall into Yamuna. Okay. So the Delhi flooding, the localities of Delhi which get flooded from time to time, that is something which we were looking into as part of the drainage master plan. So in that, since it's a scientific subject, in terms of you have to also see when you're designing these drains against which flood or which rainfall you would like to design. So usually the cities design these drains, localized drains. Let me also add that every area which you develop as a city has a natural drainage before development. So in the case of Delhi, Delhi started developing maybe hundreds of years ago, and slowly we have reached the present status. So when any new area is designed, you are looking into the localized drain that if the rooftop water has to be evacuated from the roof, it has to go into a street level drain. So the street level drains are designed. And then these street level drains are very small. They fall into another drain, which might be along the road or along the major street of that locality. So all these things are designed in a way that the water should move under the gravity. You're not using the energy to drain that water.
Right. Okay. So coming specifically to the report that you presented in 2016.
I'm coming to that. I'm coming to that only. Right. So when you are trying to look at, then you have to see that all these drains, starting from the street level and then going to the next level, which are along the roads, and then these drains fall into some natural drain which is existing in that area. Okay, so what we need to do, that these drains which are natural drains and the big man-made drains, you have to find out that if the rain falls in that area, how much of that rain will get converted into stormwater. So there's something which is a scientific question. You have to identify which are the areas which will be contributing to that drain. And that is what we call that catchment of that drain. So on that basis, then you impose that if a rain which is having the probability of falling or received in 1 in 5 years. It'll be a smaller rain if you try to get something which is 1 in 10 years in the return period. There'll be a higher rain event. So when you are designing, you have to be conscious that what you are designing it against for. Okay.
Right. So in terms of the report specifically, sir, I believe that it was quite an elaborate report that you submitted to the government in 2016. But so why was it shelved? No, what was the
I
major
think
reason?
let me come out with some other background because I think that's important to understand that why we use the mechanism which we use collectively amongst our colleagues who are involved in this. We knew that the first requirement is to assess what is the present capability of these drains, how much water they can evacuate from the respective areas. That is the starting point. Only then you can look at what interventions you need to have. You cannot just blindly say that I'll increase the size of every drain because there's no space. We are talking of a city which is already established city, and also when these drains were designed, then the runoff coefficient or the paved area was much less. Now,
Right.
over the years, you keep on paving areas. So the impact of that paving of the area, whether you are doing through the making more houses or whether you are doing through making the more roads and all those infrastructures, the impact of that is that if earlier you get 1 centimeter of rainfall, half of that might go into the soil, get absorbed, and the runoff generation will be done by the remaining half, which is creating the storm water. As you keep on paving the areas, this percentage keeps on going up. The same amount of rainfall might produce double the amount of runoff or the storm water, which will need to be evacuated through these drains. So what we did, we very systematically, since Delhi was the first city which was digitized, and we wanted to use the simulation models. See, in the scientific arena now, the simulation models are there. We can build a model, a mathematical model for an area where we can find out that what is the natural terrain using the digital elevation models that shows you that what are the slopes available, natural slopes available in those areas. And using that digital elevation model, you can identify that for a specific drainage, how much is the area which contributes to that drain. So we did all that analysis. And then we also went to the extent of when the water is received in these drains, how it will move from one drain to the other drain, and then how it get convolved to make a bigger storm.
Just in terms of data that was used while you conducted the research, I believe that the way you got the data, or rather, the condition of getting the data was very difficult from the government department. So you had to constantly ask them for the data. And
I know
after you
that.
submitted the report, there was a question on the very viability of the data itself.
See, this whole task was taken by us as a contribution to the societal issue. And we had taken a very, very small amount of money, maybe 1/10 of what was being asked by the industry, with the intention that we should contribute to the society from our knowledge, since we are sitting ourselves in the same city. So
Right.
basically, the understanding was that we will do all the work and we will want the government of Delhi. And our main client was the Irrigation and Flood Control Department. And we had the understanding that we'll do the work, but as far as the data is concerned, because everything depends on the data. So that data has to be validated by those people. That whatever we
Right.
are using, that has to be validated, though the contractors might have done the survey and then give the data. But unless it's validated, it is not foolproof. When you might come out with wrong results. So that is where they never did that. And ultimately, we had no other option but to use whatever data was given to
So
us by the
So during your research, I mean, coming specifically to the question of the exploitation of the River Yamuna, especially the Delhi stretch, we have seen people occupying the floodplains, illegal constructions being, going on over the years, and how and we saw how the river actually reclaimed its original floodplains during this time. So and looking at this, especially with the government's claim of rejuvenating Yamuna, so both the things seem to be at odds.
Yes, I think that was not part of this drainage master plan, because that was another study which we had done for the NGT through the DDA, where the NGT wanted to know that what they wanted to demarcate that where the floodplain is, because people normally ask question, and that was one of the reasons given by the various departments, that they don't know where the floodplain is. So the NGT said that, okay, let's get a study done, and we did that study, where the objective was that they will declare the area which is occupied by the river for 1 in 25 years flood, which will have a frequency of coming once in 25 years. Okay, so we did that. And then the next question was that this demarcation will be wrong if we are not considering the present encroachment, which is through the embankments. And we generated a scenario to really help the government to really demarcate that area properly. That if the breach takes place, if there was no embankment, we gave them one scenario where the embankments are in place, and how a flood wave, which is equivalent to 1 in 25 years, how it will move through the stretch of Delhi, and what will be the levels attained at different locations in this stretch. But the second scenario we generated, which was more meaningful to define the floodplain, if there are no encroachments, if there are no embankments, then where the flood water will reach for 1 in 25 year flood. That was what was given to the DDA, and the NGT had asked them to demarcate those locations and put marking there that this is the area which belongs to the floodplain, so that no further development should take place in this area.
So one of the things I think which is very important when it comes to the overall flow of the effluents and also the treatment of the effluents. So don't you think, because there are a lot of agencies at play, Delhi Jal Board, the Flood and Irrigation Department, and so on and so forth, in terms of, when you specifically segregate the waste, this actually is, instead of streamlining the process, it's actually becoming a hurdle.
Are you talking about the solid waste, or you are talking about liquid waste?
Right. In terms of sewage and industrial effluents and stormwater drainage, the three of them.
So basically, I think that is something which is again the NGT had put in place the order in 2015, January 2015. That order was giving directions to stop the pollution in Yamuna, and this is an elaborate order. You should read that. It has all those elements, and the DJB was asked to implement that. The basic objective was that no sewage should come into the drains, whichever are the natural drains. So Delhi has around 201 segments of natural drains.
Right.
So the order said that, and since the DJB had put in place a sewerage master plan, which is supposed to be implemented. And when we looked at that sewerage master plan, they said that will take 20 years. So that was not something acceptable. So then I was involved in that, and I was asked to have a discussion with the consultant. And we sat together, and we said that our objective is, when I asked them that why you are saying that it will take 20 years, they said there are so many unauthorized colonies which are not having any access also to put the sewer lines. And there also are not willing to pay. That is, payment is a separate part, but even if they want to pay and somebody else pays, then there's no access to those. So I said, let's find a solution to that. At least inside those localities, you can take some time. But for the time being, if I give you the objective that wherever unauthorized colony is bringing the sewage of that colony out of that area, it'll be going under gravity. So it'll be at least not more than 1 or 2 locations from where it'll be oozing out. So you have the sewerage master plan already put in place. You have said that this is what we are going to put in place. So you tap wherever the sewage is coming out of the unauthorized colony, tap it there and take it to the nearest location where you have a sewer line, or you put that sewer line also, and it shouldn't be moving into the natural drain. Okay. So I said that if you do that, then tell us how much money it will take, because they had said that they'll need 20,000 crores for the sewerage master plan. And they came back and said that in that case, it will take only 3 years instead of 20 years. And it will take 4,500 crores.
Right.
The NGT at that time said that then is very good, let's implement this. So that is the order which is the Yamuna, that Mali to Nirmal Yamuna of 2000.
Right. Yes.
That is what is being implemented, but not at the same pace, because they had said 3 years, but it has already, and this is 2015. So now we are in 2023. So 5 years have already gone past.
Coming back to the question, Professor, of the report per se, you, along with your colleagues, of which Dr. Khosa, he was one of the prominent ones. When you submitted the report in 2018 to the Delhi government, I believe that Mr. Kejriwal, he asked the departments to actually implement many of the recommendations that you have made. So what exactly, sir, was the problem that led to the shelving of this report? Since it was such a comprehensive plan, what was the problem?
I was asked to make a presentation to the Chief Minister, and I did that. And in that meeting itself, it was decided that this report should be implemented. So we don't know, and it was also the instructions had gone to all the departments. So we don't know what happened after that. Because I think, I will also like to explain that this is the only way you can tackle the local flooding of Delhi. Yes, Yamuna flood, you have to do something more than what we had recommended. But the flooding within Delhi, there's no other option, because we had generated.
Just to clarify at this moment, Professor, most of the annual flooding that we see in Delhi is because of the local rainfall, right?
Yeah, majority of it is local rainfall. See, what happens is that Yamuna, when it goes beyond the danger mark, that is the time when the local water which has accumulated because of the rain in Delhi, it cannot be discharged into Yamuna because its level is higher. And they shut the gates, and either it has to be pumped into Yamuna, or you have to wait till the Yamuna level goes down. So this time, the same thing has happened, that the level in Yamuna was so high that all the areas which are adjoining to this and all the drains, they couldn't evacuate themselves into Yamuna. So that's the reason that is a combination of both the things in the present case. But normally, in most of unless there's a huge rainfall and the water is coming from upstream into Yamuna, majority of the time is local rainfall, which occurs because of the rain falling in Delhi.
Right. Sir, if I was to ask you about, especially now with such adverse weather conditions becoming a reality, and which is becoming more common, what we saw this time during the week from July 10th to 17th, to be very specific, is that River Yamuna had reclaimed many of its original floodplains, right? So going ahead, how can we ensure that, obviously such weather conditions are becoming more regular now? How can we ensure that the damage is minimized?
See, the damage, if you keep on occupying, and this was one of the recommendations of that judgment, that within this floodplain, the government should identify which are the structures which can be demolished, which are the areas which can be given back to river. So that decision was to be taken with the rider that no further development. Okay, so that has to be maintained. And if you ask me, it becomes very difficult once you allow something to come up. It becomes very difficult, whether it's encroachment for the residential purpose or whether it's encroachment for any other purpose. It becomes very difficult unless you are, as a country, you are willing to invest that much money and do that. So I think that's what a call has to be taken. But coming to your question, that as the conditions are becoming more and more severe because of the climate change, your rainfall events are going to be more severe.
Erratic, yes.
Erratic as well as severe. The intensity will go up as well as the magnitudes will, the frequency will also go up. So under that, we have to be ready to cope up with those situations. And there are many mechanisms, and what we have given as recommendations is only a starting point where is very low investment things, low investment recommendations, where you don't have to really invest too much. For example, we said that let's desilt the drains properly. So half the problem in Delhi is because of improper desilting or incomplete desilting. Because if there's a small segment, see, the mechanism is not there. What we are paying to the contractor is on the basis of how much muck he has removed. But there's no mechanism in place where you are ensuring that he has cleaned the drain through and through. There are some portions of the drain where it's not even accessible because we have covered the drain from top. So how they are cleaning those, we don't have any idea. So I think that is the first thing. If you do that properly and if you do it scientifically, we had said that we can even help in creating procedures which can be used to really ensure that this continuity is in place after the desilting has been done. Then we said that, see, when the volume of water is coming and is concentrating, the other options are that can you spread that volume of water? So one spreading possible is that rejuvenate your water bodies, because they were absorbing a lot of volume of water, and you can operate them in such a manner that they are having cushion during the monsoon, because in the monsoon they will get filled up by the end of the monsoon. So that can also take water. Then we also said that you can induce recharge. Rainwater harvesting is being recommended at the household level, which is dependent on the individuals, because it has to be cleaned from time to time after 2 years or 3 years, which they never do because people only implement because there's a fine otherwise. But after that, nobody is bothering, and the effectiveness of that rainwater harvesting is not there. So we had suggested that if you depress all the parks by 1 foot, which will not make it a pond, but this volume is a huge volume because we have around thousands of parks in Delhi. And it'll take only 1 day for the water to deplete, go into the soil and add to the groundwater, which will do double good. It'll also enhance your groundwater table because Delhi is legally or illegally using a lot of groundwater.
Right.
And the groundwater table is falling down. So it is also is not allowing impeding the environmental functions of these water bodies and the groundwater. Because if the groundwater table goes too low, then it has an implication that some of the water from the Yamuna might be lost to the groundwater.
Right. So in terms of the report, now what is the current status, sir? Will it be taken up again, or will there be a complete renewal of?
We don't know, basically, because we had told them that there was a meeting um, which happened, and we told them that as far as we are concerned, now I am already superannuated. Even my other colleagues are also, some of them have superannuated. So we wanted them to close this project, and we said that we'll help you directly or indirectly. There are other mechanisms, and there are more colleagues. But the way this has been, we have not even.
But in terms of closure, sir, you and
We
your
have
team
submitted
have
the report. We have
has
submitted the report.
has worked so hardly, has worked on the report for over a period of 4 to 5 years, and
Yeah.
it included a lot of investment in terms of training, in terms of research, in terms of time. So and now closing the report, it actually does not make sense. I mean, what should be
No,
ideally done?
closing the
Get the
report
best-
in the sense that we have taken this as a project in IIT. So if the project is not closed, there was a very meager money, and if the money is not totally paid up, we cannot officially close the project, though we have submitted the final report. So that has not been done yet.
Okay.
But we have given them that all the models, everything, all the reports, and it's such a scientific work. I have not seen any such big city being modeled in the manner in which we have done it. So I think it's basically a lack of I don't know, I cannot pinpoint that what is the reason. When we even went in for when they said that we told them that from the very beginning that we'll want some of the people they should identify, and we even said that they should send some people who can also register with us for their higher degrees. If somebody is BTech, he can register for MTech. If somebody is MTech, he can register for PhD and work on this problem.
Right.
So only two people from DJB came, and one could complete his MTech, and the other one couldn't complete, and he went back. But we said that this will be a very good opportunity for you to do the capacity building. So when we submitted the models and told them that this is something which you should use, and they said that we don't know how to use it. We said that fine, we'll conduct training. So we had around 150 of their officials trained, given them the initial training for 2 days each group, and we said we have exposed you. Now you identify a group of from maybe 5-6 people, and we'll give you further training so that you can handle this what we have done. And it's not a one-time job. You have to handle it. If it's a new city, you can do it as a one-time job and then say that, okay, this is what you implement. In this particular case is an iterative thing. If you really want to be judicious to the public money, you have to first understand that what is ailing a particular location where it is flooding, and what you need to do, what are the options available, and that can be done in the long-term perspective. So that's the only way. And then you can also, since we are quantifying every volume of water, it's not that you are just giving a blanket statement that, okay, you do this. There is a very scientific information which has been made available that this is what is happening. This is the reason it's happening. Now we are given some of the options. Let's implement those and see that how much improvement you get. Once you are reached there, it doesn't take more than 1 or 2 years to really do that.
Okay.
And the desilting is something which you are doing in any case every year.
Every year, right.
And you're spending so much money. Why don't you make it more effective? So maybe that there are some people who are wanting that it should be status quo, and things shouldn't improve, and there are some beneficiaries at times. We don't know. We are not the right people to be answering those questions.
So, thank you, Professor, once again for sharing your insights and also the contents of the elaborate research that was undertaken by you and your team in 2012. Thank you once again for joining the Federal.
Subscribe to the Federal's YouTube page for more news and updates.